It is my privilege to introduce our guests of honor, Steve and Sharon Lieberman. Steve and Sharon, you've heard so much about them in the video. There'll be more time to stand. There'll be more time. You've heard so much about them in the video, but I just want to add one important point from the perspective of the alumni, from the perspective of the musmachim, of the graduates. When I close my eyes and think about Steve and Sharon, I smile. I think about two words, care and loving, because they care and love for each one of the graduates. I experience that personally each and every day. I can't count how many times I've turned to both of them for help professionally and personally. And as I look around this room at all of my fellow musmachim, all of the fellow graduates, it's amazing when we have conversations and Steve helped this way, Sharon helped that way. Love and care. They love and care for each one of us because they love and care for the mission of Yeshivat Chovevei Torah, because they love and care for open orthodoxy and for a better future for the Jewish people. Steve and Sharon are truly an inspiration to all of us. Please rise as we give honor and kavod to Steve and Sharon Lieberman.
Thank you, Rabbi Antin. Thank you so much for your very kind words. I'd like to say thank you to all of you who are with us tonight. Thank you to our friends and family who've come from near and from far to celebrate this honor with us in this very beautiful setting. A special thank you to all of our friends from Potomac and from Washington who traveled in ever-changing circumstances to be with us tonight. Many thanks to Mati, to Noya, to Rella, to Dan, and to all of the other people who've worked tirelessly to create such a special evening. Thank you, Rav Avi, for your confidence, for your trust in Steve, for inviting him to join you as one of Chovevei's founding board members, and for your continued belief, together with Rabbi Lopatin, in his abilities as chairman. Steve, like our parents, like our grandparents, has shown our children by example the value and the importance of service to the community. This is something that they appreciate, something that they emulate, and something I hope that they'll be inspired to emulate throughout their lives. To a Jewish woman who attended Princeton in the 1970s, the first full decade of women at Princeton, to a Jewish woman who was a partner in a man's world on Wall Street in the 1980s, journeys into new and modern uncharted worlds seemed very natural. Steve and I met at the Kosher Eating Club at Princeton when we were sophomores. When we became engaged several years later and met with my family's Rabbi, Pesach Levovitz of blessed memory, in my hometown of Lakewood, New Jersey, he asked Steve if he had a place for an ufruf. When Steve answered, Rabbi Avi Weiss, the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale, Rabbi Levovitz said, "It's good." And this opened the door to my journey into the world of open orthodoxy, which would become YCT.
It may be the last time you've heard those words out of Lakewood.
When each of our newborn daughters was named by Steve and Rabbi Weiss, as I held them on the bima on Shabbos morning, it seemed very natural, it seemed very right to me. When our son Ben was born at 25 weeks, and our Beth Shalom community prayed for our Tinok Katan, Rabbi Weiss told me, of course use his name. Just don't share his full name with anyone before his bris. This too felt very right to me. When I had my first aliyah at Anna Schoen's bat mitzvah at the Women's Tefillah in 1997 at the Bayit, it too felt very right to me. How proud am I to have been able to play a part, along with Steve, in the birth and the growth of Yeshivat Chovevei Torah. How blessed is my family and our community to reap the benefits of Chovevei so directly through strong and inspiring rabbis and spiritual leaders in the greater Washington area. Thank you again to our YCT Mishpacha for this honor. Now Steve would like to share his thoughts with us.
Sharon, those remarks were absolutely beautiful, and I share in each and every one of the thank yous that you have extended. But of course, I have one additional important thank you. Sharon, thank you for all of your help and advice. You have not just been a sounding board, but a true co-author of much of the work that I've been privileged to do for YCT. Without your wisdom and guidance, my efforts would have been much diminished. Thank you. It's truly special to be up here tonight on the same podium with Tova Bulow, my good friend, with whom I've had the pleasure to work arm in arm for many years. I'm so delighted that you and your family have been able to endow the Norman and Tova Bulow Rosh HaYeshiva chair. It's a very, very special thing and so appropriate. Thank you. Rabbi Lopatin shared with us earlier some remarks about the passing last week of a remarkable woman, my friend Belda Lindenbaum. Belda was a visionary in the area of the women's role in Orthodox Judaism, a steadfast friend and supporter of YCT, and a person who was always direct in her advice about how to confront injustice head on. Belda, we will miss you. But just last week, I received a final piece of advice from Belda. Last Wednesday, I visited Marcel and Carol and their families to pay a Shiva call. And the first thing that Marcel said to me when I sat down was, "Remember, Steve, Belda would want your speech to be short. People would much rather eat and enjoy themselves than listen to you." And of course, I'm going to follow Belda's advice, as I always did. But I want to share some brief reflections about the state of the yeshiva with you. YCT is now in its 16th year. It began as a grand experiment, an experiment designed and executed by its visionary founder, Harav Avi Weiss. For a number of years, I think it's fair to say that no one knew whether this experiment would succeed. No one knew whether the yeshiva would be able to attract the highest quality of students. No one knew whether, after providing those students with training that was not only deep but innovative, those students would ever find jobs. But I submit to you that now, on May 18th, 2015, 16 years after the founding of YCT, the answer is clear. The great experiment has succeeded. YCT is here to stay. It has been playing in the major leagues of rabbinical education for the last several years. And when people look at the major institutions training rabbis in the United States, there are no longer the big three. Instead, there are the big four. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's look at the numbers. As of June 2015, there will be 95 YCT graduates. 92% of those graduates are serving Klal Yisrael in the rabbinate. I don't think there is another yeshiva anywhere in the world that can boast those percentages. And this year, once again, it looks like every single YCT graduate from the 2015 class will find an excellent position in the rabbinate. 6 of our 7 grads have already accepted positions, and the 7th is interviewing with several places. One of our new grads will be the rabbi of a 350-family Sephardic synagogue in Beverly Hills, our first Sephardic shul, but not the last. One will become the associate rabbi of a 400-family shul in Baltimore. One will become the director of Jewish life and learning at the Stanford University Hillel. 2 will fulfill their longtime dreams of becoming chaplains. And one will be heading up a base Hillel in the Chelsea neighborhood in Manhattan, and a joint project with Hillel International and UJA Federation. YCT Musmachim are working in synagogues, on college campuses, and Jewish day schools, and important Jewish organizations, and they are moving up within those organizations. For example, we now have 2 graduates who have become executive directors of campus Hillels. This year, Aaron Lerner was promoted to executive director of the UCLA Hillel, one of the most important Hillels in the country. 4 of our grads have become either the heads of school or the heads of Judaic studies departments at Jewish day schools. And now we have more than 30 graduates who are synagogue rabbis, many of whom, like my good friend Rabbi Nissen Antin, have ascended to the senior rabbi positions at their shuls. And have no doubt about it, YCT Musmachim have become forces for change in their communities, in their Jewish day schools, and in colleges throughout the United States. As you heard from Rabbi Lopatin, YCT's work would not have been possible without the support of all of you. Over the past 16 years, YCT has raised more than $38 million to recruit, train, and place rabbis. In doing so, it has gained the endorsement and the support of key foundations that support Jewish education, including the Jim Joseph Foundation, the Orthodox Union, the Emanuel Friedman Foundation, the Maimonides Fund, the Legacy Heritage Fund Limited, and the Karen Keshet Fund. Last week, Sharon and I were at a fascinating event at the Shakespeare Theater in Washington, D.C. Every year, the Shakespeare Theater puts on a mock trial based on one of the plays in its repertory for that year. The mock trial this year was based on The Man of La Mancha. And the issue was whether Don Quixote should be adjudicated incompetent. The 5 judges on the panel included Supreme Court Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Stephen Breyer. And the lawyer for Don Quixote argued that the human race should not be relegated to pursuing only those dreams that are possible, to fighting only those foes that are easily beatable, that we need not pursue only pedestrian paths and dreams. He argued that Don Quixote was an exemplar, a symbol, a guidepost to those who sought to do great things, even in the face of overwhelming odds. When YCT began 16 years ago, there were very few people who believed that there was a path to success for a new institution that sought through innovative means, such as pastoral counseling, to train a new generation of open Orthodox rabbis who would be committed to full halakhic observance, but at the same time be welcoming and inclusive, who would respect and follow the customs and traditions of Orthodox Judaism, but also strive to promote principles of social justice, women's rights, and personal dignity, and who would take up and carry forward the mantle of Rav Soloveitchik in a world that was and still is increasingly turning rightward and becoming more insular. I would submit that today, May 2015, YCT is no longer an impossible dream. It is a dream that has been achieved. It is a dream that has succeeded. It has succeeded by recruiting, training, and placing 95 extraordinary rabbis, with 45 more in training at YCT now. It has succeeded because of each of these remarkable men. It has succeeded because of Rabbi Weiss, It has succeeded because of Rosh Yeshiva Dov Linzer. It has succeeded because of Rabbi Asher Lopatin. It has succeeded because of the faculty of YCT and the amazing staff of YCT. It has succeeded because of the many rabbis of great learning and courage who've supported the endeavor. People like Rabbi Haskell Lookstein, Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, Rabbi Mark Angel, Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, and Rabbi Shmuel Hertzfeld. It has succeeded because of the support of each and every one of you, not just your financial support, although that is critical, and please keep it coming, but your demand that YCT rabbis be hired and your assistance to those rabbis when they come to your communities. I would ask you to please give yourselves a round of applause to recognize the role that you have played in bringing Rabbi Weiss's impossible dream to reality. Thank you.
Steve and Sharon, on behalf of YCT, I would like to present you with this beautiful and very heavy challah board. Its inscription reads, Yeshivat Chovevei Torah Rabbinical School proudly honors Sharon and Steve Lieberman. Im ein kemach, ein Torah. Im ein Torah, ein kemach. If there is no nourishment, there is no Torah. If there is no Torah, there is no nourishment. Thank you very much.